Good evening, I'm Jimmy Dore, and this is the Evening News on RT. And I want to bring in a special guest host for today. It's Scotty Nell Hughes, and she's a frequent guest on RT and a Republican grassroots strategist and former supermodel. And she will be with me throughout our program today to discuss and debate with myself and our guests. Today, we're going to be taking on two topics, mass surveillance, and then later in the show, the role of whistleblowers. You know, there's a growing number of ways you can be followed, tracked, or recognized by new technologies. For example, the Orlando Police Department plans on continuing a facial recognition program from Amazon called Recognition. Advocates say it's used to find suspects and abduction victims. However, the ACLU and other privacy groups say the technology is primed for abuse in the hands of governments. For more, we turn to cybersecurity expert John McAfee.
Hi, John. Thank you for joining the show. John, this is your first major interview.
Well, thanks for inviting me on again.
Of course. Well, thank you for coming in. We've been quite concerned. This is your first official interview since an alleged assassination attempt last month. Most importantly, how are you feeling? How's your recovery going? And most importantly, have we gotten anywhere in the case? Do we know who did this to you?
I'm feeling great, as good as ever. I think a hospital today, I would recommend it for anybody who's overworked. But I can't speak about the case at the current time, but we're certainly pursuing it.
Well, I am glad that you're pursuing it because we don't like these things to happen. You know, it had to be very scary for you and your family when you realized that that you had been poisoned or however that it went through. Let me ask this question. You have been for years sounding the alarm about the infrastructure and the lack of security on things like our water, our electric grids. Are we sort of in that place right now in America today? Do you feel like we're protective, or are we just on the verge of some sort of cyber security attack?
Well, I think I'm far more concerned with the problem being with our government. You know, and any government that is so afraid of its citizenry that it develops highly sophisticated hacking and spying tools, which the government does hack, believe it or not, and makes arrangements with companies like Google and Twitter and Facebook, that concerns me. Because any government that is fearful of its citizenry cannot possibly represent that citizenry in the way that it's intended. They need to be servants, not managers and bosses and owners.
So, let me ask you, is it true, I hear a lot that the government is collecting data on every email, every telephone call, and every text we make, and they're actually storing it. Is that true? Is that happening?
No, absolutely. And Google has admitted to cooperating with various agencies within the government to pass information about its clients. Now, maybe they're cooperating because of a subpoena or a court order, but still, it sounds an alarm to me. Can you imagine when America was first founded, George Washington and the Senate and Congress spending time trying to spy on the American citizens? No, they were there to serve. And service, by the way, is not something, it's not a good job. The people who were assigned to serve the people were people who did it out of a sense of duty. Now it's done out of a sense of self-duty, of self-serving, not serving the public. So, you know, I think our government has gone the way of most governments. Over time, governments simply become overbearing and corrupt and need to be changed. Our Declaration of Independence says that we, the citizens, have the right to change or even abolish a government which is no longer meeting its purpose. Now, if I spoke those words on a street corner, I might get arrested. That we have the right to abolish our government? Of course we do. It was created by us, the citizens, and it is now spying on those very citizens that created it. Please, God. So the government is trying to be self-perpetuating rather than serving. This is the problem.
Well, John, let me play devil's advocate right now, as many people are saying that work for Google are saying, well, listen, a lot of this information are things that you volunteer yourself. I mean, you put as much information out there on the web through your social media, Facebook page. You put pictures of your children, their names, the schools they go to. You volunteer this information. So what's the difference between you volunteering it and the government collecting it?
Well, it's not a matter of what's the difference. The problem is, why is the government collecting it? Sure, you put a lot of information out there, and I would use it for entertainment. You know, photos of your dog, how wonderful, or photos of your house, or whatever. Yes, you put that information there, but I don't go into it to try to spy on you or to try to collect data on all the citizenry to make sure that we are all in line and not breaking laws and not in any way threatening the status quo of the government. This is the problem. Not we volunteer it, sure we volunteer it, but the government goes out of its way to collect it, collate it, and analyze it. That's the problem.
So
yeah, who cares whether they have to do it surreptitiously or we hand it over voluntarily? They are still making a huge effort.
So what
to
should be more, well, my question for you, John, what should be more concerning to you, private business doing it or the government, or are both just as concerning?
Well, I think the government is more concerning. I mean, private business is not there to serve me, but the government is. We created our government to be a service, to do the things that we could not do as individuals or small groups, like build roads, create a national defense. Whereas the private business, I have the choice. I can choose not to buy a shoe that's advertised on Facebook. That's my choice. And private business, I can choose to have nothing to do with them. They do not own me. They do not pass the laws. They do not control me, whereas the government is attempting to do that. So absolutely far more concerned about the government doing it than private business.
John, I wanted to ask you, I want to talk to you about facial recognition and how, you know, the problems with that. So it seems to be pretty effective on your iPhone, but when police try to use facial recognition to identify known criminals in crowds, it's wrong. Well, since they've used it in trial, it's been wrong 90% of the time. So what are the dangers of facial recognition technology being in the hands of the government and the police state?
Well, if it's being used by the police state to apprehend criminals, and it's wrong much of the time, then I am going to be apprehended sometime, or you are going to be apprehended sometime, wrongly apprehended. And surely, is our criminal problem so bad? Is it worse now than it was 50 years ago, where we had to go out and interview people and do some footwork? I don't think so. And you know for a fact that this facial recognition will eventually be used by corrupt powers within the government, within police agencies, within the FBI, to somehow keep tabs on everyone, to make sure we are all in line, to make sure there is no threat to the government. But really, threats to the government are natural as governments become less responsive. As they serve us less, of course there are going to be, revolutions even. That's how governments change. But here, we can do it peacefully. I mean, we have in the Article 5 of the Constitution says that if we are sick and fed up with the status quo, we can have a constitutional convention, throw everybody out, and start a brand new government. Please, we have that option. But try it. If you try that, you're going to be harassed by every agency within the government that is threatened by such a task.
Well, to broaden this conversation, let's bring in legal and media analyst Lionel. Lionel, thanks for joining us. And we're talking about an issue where many people in the government, actually, there's a fine line to walk here. The government says they're doing this out of national security and to keep you safe. What is that fine line?
It's bunkum. It's poppycock. What do you think? Let me see if I can put it into this perspective. We are a country of sheeple, mouth-breathing, knuckle-dragging idiots with a generation who was born in captivity, who doesn't even understand the concept of surveillance. We have this machine right here and others just like it. And we are constantly putting in biometrics into it. Our thumbprint, our visuals. We're putting where we are, our money. All of us are going to be put into a 24/7 worldview panopticon. We are going to be on a screen 24 hours a day. Every bit of data, every bit of information regarding you. That may, to the untrained eye, may seem like, well, what do they want from me? I'm just a nobody. I'm not hiding anything. And that's what gets Americans. I'm not hiding anything. And then it goes into this huge batch. And anytime they want to pull that out, cull it, relook at it, perhaps put it into an algorithm, predictive programming, you name it, Minority Report, it's here. But listen carefully. The moment, and it's going to happen, mark my words, flag the tape, as we used to say in radio, the moment we have little chips, RFID chips or something that is placed subcutaneously, as they've done in Sweden, this younger generation will flock, wait in line for hours, days, to have this put in us.
What?
The moment that happens, that becomes part of us, it's over. And it's coming.
Okay, so wait a minute. You said that this, first of all, if you don't have anything to hide, Lionel, what are you afraid of? Anyway, but secondly, you know, I'm kidding. But secondly, what did you just mention
and
about...
you're a great kidder. One of the best.
You know, they're putting...
You crack me up.
Well, let me ask you a question about what you just
I can see that
said.
you and I are going to get along fine.
About the chip in Sweden. I've never heard about that. Can you elaborate on that, what you meant by that?
Of course you haven't. Of course you haven't. I'm going to tell you what else you haven't heard. We don't have time for that. Let me tell you what's going to happen right now. And Mr. McAfee, I'm sure, will concur. You know, one of these days, because we're a country of idiots, okay, we're going to have this chip. And you're going to be, you know, one day, let's say you're some kid. Hey, look at this. I don't even need a wallet or whatever. I go into a store and look at this. Here's the bill. Look, there we go. I just paid for it. Go into a cab. Hey, look, there we go. This is fantastic. All my medical records. Oh, we love medical records. Look at me. Oh, there I am. And then one day when you go into a court and you're found guilty of something, they're not going to put you in prison. They're not going to put you in the hooskow and the pokey. No, they're going to turn your chip off. And poof, you don't exist. And it is coming, and it is here. And the worst part about it is, with all due respect, and it's not really their fault, we have a country, oh, what's the word? Yes, of idiots, fools, rubes, chuffs, churls, boors, Boeotians, who don't even understand what we're talking about. And as I'm speaking, and Mr. McAfee is trying to warn the world, they're sitting there with a thick web-like drool that's coming out of their mouth because this is incomprehensible, because this is cool. Don't tell me about cops looking for us, OCR. After all, they're trying to find the bad guys. Of course.
Lionel,
look,
let me break in for a sec. Let me break in. John,
Please.
what he's saying sounds very scary. What can we do to protect ourselves?
Can I answer that question? Let's go back to
actually,
the very
hold on. We're close to a break
premise.
here. Hold on. I want to make. We're close to a break here. I think that because this is a good answer for this
You
one.
bet.
We'll return back to Terminator/Revelations as soon as we come back from the break now.